Hi, I'm Travis Bullock. Together with my wife Brenda and my two boys Charlie and Clay, we own and operate Mile High Outfitters. Brenda and I, well, Brenda grew up around Chalice since she was a little kid. Her grandfather and grandmother homesteaded up the Samurai Valley, which is about 20-30 miles from Chalice. I was raised down around Emmett, down on the Boise River. My great-great-grandfather homesteaded there, and anyway, that's where we were raised. We both love Idaho very much, and both her family and my family have been going into the Frank Church Wilderness before it was ever a Frank Church Wilderness. It was just called the Idaho Primitive Area. Yeah, get out of the way, Clay. A few of the things I'd like to go over. Clay, get out of the way. A few of the things I'd like to go over is what to bring. A lot of times what hunters bring just doesn't seem to be the right thing, so I figured the easiest way is to show you what we want you to bring. This is a day pack that I use. It's just a fanny pack actually, but it's got a fairly large bag on it. As a hunter, you probably don't need a bag on it this large, because the first thing you're going to do is fill it up, and then once it gets too heavy, you'll take it with you each day on the horse.
Baba!
Charlie, go get your brother, would you?
Why?
Once it gets too full on the horse, then you won't take it with you to go hunting. So what I recommend is get you a small day pack, and a few of the things that you're going to need in that day pack is a water bottle, and your lunch. We'll make a lunch every day, and what you do is put that in your pack with you, take it with you. This is a spot and scope. I carry this in my bag with me. Charlie, why don't you guys go play? Go chase the rabbit. Go chase the rabbit, Clay.
Up here!
This is a spot and scope that I use. This is a Zeiss spot and scope, and you'll find that when you come hunting with us, we don't use cheap optics. That's one of the best things you can have about hunt. One of the best things you can do to help your hunt out is to have good optics. So Zeiss spot and scopes, Zeiss binoculars, Optilith, Swarovski, or Leica all make good optics, but Zeiss is typically what I use. These are my binoculars, and when you come in hunting with us, one of the things you'll see us do is we'll put our binoculars inside our jackets or inside our shirt. That way your binoculars are at your body temperature, so if you leave outside in the morning and it's cold, and if your binoculars are outside of your jacket when you're riding your horse, and you get up there on top of the mountain and you want to look across the mountain to see if there's any elk or deer over there, pull them up to your face, and what's the first thing that happens? They fog up. So always carry your binoculars on you and put them inside your jacket so they stay the same temperature as your body, and that'll keep them from fogging up on you. Another thing that guides will carry with them is a first aid kit. It's not very much, but that's what we carry with us. Some of the things that I recommend hunters bring is these little Petzl headlamps. These things last forever. They give you a pretty good light, but they don't just last for an hour or two. I change the batteries in this thing once or twice a season, and you know, we use them several hundred hours. So I highly recommend these little headlamps. I would say put one or two in your backpack and put one on your pocket. A lot of times late in the season I'll just put it around my neck and wear it like a necklace, because as the season progresses it gets darker. So that's what I recommend. Also, you want 2 or 3 cigarette lighters, something to start fire with. What I carry with me is a little piece of pitchwood. When you get to camp with us, you can ask for some, we'll give you some. It's what we use for fire starter. And if you happen to be in the woods when it's wet and rainy and you want to start a fire, just use a pitchwood and it'll help you get that fire started a lot faster. I carry an extra knife with me. This is a little caping knife that I use. I don't carry much for knives. I have a Gerber tool. And I recommend everybody to bring one of those. He's either a Leatherman or a Gerber tool or something to this effect. They're just so handy. They got a screwdriver, a can opener, a couple knife blades on them, sharpener. Just anyway, they're handy to have. So you can put one of these on your belt, carry it with you. And so in your backpack, you're going to want your lunch and your water bottle. Your camera, if you bring a camera of some kind, I usually carry just a little small digital camera. And then of course I have my video camera too. I'll carry my tripod with me for using, and my spot and scope, so I can use those together. You don't need that as a hunter. But I guess what the point I'm trying to make with your day pack is don't bring a whole bunch of stuff, because you're just, what winds up happening is I see guys, they'll get a great big pack and they'll load it full of stuff that they'll never use, and then they leave it with the horse when they go hunting each day because it's too heavy to carry. So the things that you really need, you don't have with you. So that's my recommendation. Keep the things that you take with you during the day down to a bare minimum. If you're a person that drinks a lot of water, it wouldn't hurt to have 2 quarts of water. I can get by for a day on 1 quart of water. Normally we just drink out of the creeks. I've never had any problem with it, and you know, you'll cross creeks usually 2 or 3 times at least during the day. Sometimes you'll stay up on the side of the mountain and you won't see much for water, but for the most part, there should be at least one point in time during the day when you're going to cross water. Another thing I'd like to go over with, I think that's about all we need to talk about there, is what you want to bring with you in your day pack. I'd like to go over a few things with some guns. This right here would be, if I could choose a gun for all hunters to bring, this is it right here. This is a Winchester Model 70 bolt action. It's got a 3x9 Leopold scope on it. This caliber actually happens to be a 7mm 08. It's plenty of gun for what we do back there. This actually happens to be my wife's gun, and she's shot several big game animals with it. She shot a Dall sheep, 3 or 4 elk, 3 or 4 deer, a moose. She's shot everything that you know. She's done enough with it that I know that this gun is all that you need. It's a fairly flat shooting gun. If I had to choose a caliber for all hunters to bring, just one caliber, it'd probably be a 270, maybe a 30-06. But either one of those 2 calibers are just fine. The biggest problem that I find with most hunters that come, and I'm generalizing here with everybody, but there's a lot of hunters that come that bring large calibers and they can't hold them steady. So the first thing they try to do is they compensate with a muzzle brake. And muzzle brakes are a guide's worst nightmare. You put the muzzle brake on the end of it. Typically what's happening when you're out hunting is the guide's looking through his binoculars, he's sitting right next to the hunter, and he's whispering to the hunter, you know, he's getting ready to step out, get ready. Hunter's looking through his gun like this, through the scope, and all of a sudden the elk steps out, the guide's still looking through his binoculars, and that muzzle brake is this far from the guide's ear, the gun goes off, and the guide takes the punishment. So if you have a choice of bringing a gun with or without a muzzle brake, we ask you to bring a gun without a muzzle brake. There's not a whole lot to this gun. The one other thing that I really like about this gun, with the Winchester Model 70s, with the Rugers, and with the Weatherbees, is the bolt action safeties. This is a 3-point safety. This is all the way on safe. You can't lift the bolt. You can't accidentally bring the bolt open, or, you know, what happens with a lot of other safeties, and I'll show you in a minute, is you can raise that bolt up, and if that bolt's even raised up just a little bit, the gun did go off, but typically the gun won't go off if that bolt's raised up just a little bit. If it's raised up enough, the gun won't go off. But anyway, bolt action 3-point safeties are the best safety you can get. That's all I really need to cover about with that gun. One thing I wanted to show you with, this is a larger caliber gun. This is a gun that I use for guiding brown bear in Alaska. This actually happens to be a 416 Remington. It's probably a little bit of overkill, but this gun was given to me by a good friend of mine, so that's why I like to carry it. But this gun has a few things that I like also. It also has a muzzle brake, but it's got a cap that screws on so that when you're hunting you can use the cap. But when you go to the range, you can screw on the muzzle brake and then you don't have to take the punishment. And of course at the range you can wear ear protection, whereas if you're hunting you're not going to be wearing earmuffs. So anyways, this is what I like about this gun. The things I don't like about this gun is the safety. This is just a little trigger safety. They're cheap and I don't care for them much. It's got a good scope on it. This has got a straight 4-power Leopold scope, and it's got a bolt action, and as far as actions go, you just can't beat the bolt action. One other thing that I like is that I want to show you. This is a gun that I use for cat hunting. In fact, when my cat hunters show up, I usually just have them borrow this gun because it's really lightweight. This actually happens to be a 223. It's a Thompson Contender, as you can tell. But the best thing about this gun is the hammer safety. In my opinion, they're going to have a hard time ever inventing a safety that's more safe than a hammer safety. And the reason I guess that I'm worried so much about safety is I see this all the time. I don't want to see this when you come hunting. I don't want to see him going any place. That barrel should always be pointed at the ground in a safe direction, but it should never be pointed at your guide or another hunter or even the horses and mules if you can help it. Now when you're putting your gun on your horse, you're going to be lifting it up and putting it in the scabbard. You know, sometimes you can't help that, but always check that gun and make sure that it's unloaded before you put it on the horse. And when you get the gun on the horse, or when you put the gun on the horse, always check, make sure you do not put a bullet in the chamber, shell in the chamber. But you can put one, you fill up your magazine, just don't put a cartridge in the chamber. The other thing that's handy anymore as I get older is these walking sticks. You know, this extends out, you can use it as a shooting rest. I use just wooden sticks all the time. I'll get off the horse, I'll find me a tree branch, and I'll use walking sticks. As everybody's knees keep getting older, and as the average age of hunters get older, it's handy to have a walking stick. So you're welcome to bring one of those. It's got a strap on it, fits over the saddle horn, makes it pretty handy. One other thing I wanted to show you, this is a typical rifle scabbard. A lot of times when guys bring their guns, they'll bring guns with extra long barrels, and then they'll put the muzzle brake on the end of it. And what happens is, this is a typical scabbard. And of course this is a typical gun. So you put the gun in the scabbard, fits down in there right nice and snug. And this is how the gun actually hangs. It hangs by that strap right there. But here's what happens. You get one of those really long guns that sticks the gun up in the air this much farther, and watch what happens. That's what's going to happen to your gun on the trail with your horse if you have a barrel that sticks out that much longer than a normal gun. Now you say, why don't you get longer scabbards? We can, I suppose, have special scabbards made. They stick down, hit the horse in the leg. It's just easier to get a gun that fits a wilderness type hunt. And yeah, I guess if you only have one gun to choose from, I'm not going to tell you not to bring that gun. We'll work with it however we can. Sometimes I've had guns that'll come in and they'll be sticking up in the air like this, so we'll tie saddle strings around the trigger guard just to make it work. But you're better off just getting a normal average size gun, preferably without a muzzle brake, preferably a caliber that you can handle without having to use a muzzle brake, and preferably with a bolt action, a good scope, and a 3-point safety if possible. That would be my wish. If that isn't what you have, we're not going to tell you you can't come hunting. I'm just telling you what I found that works the best over the years. The thing I'd like to go over now, I guess, is your clothing. Well, I'll start off with the footwear. Early in the season, I'll be wearing about what you see me wearing right now. I like Danner light boots. And I think this is an 8-inch top, I'm not sure. I don't like a real long top, I don't like a real short top. But a Vibram sole on it. My little boy just fell down and he's crying. Anyway, I usually wear Carhartt pants. I wear wool socks. If I'm not wearing Carhartts, I'll wear Wranglers. Something that's just, I don't worry about noise a whole lot. If you're that close that they're hearing you, you should be shooting them. We're not bow hunting from a tree stand. So, you know, it's not that big a deal about the noise. I'll wear a wool shirt on the outside. I'll wear a t-shirt underneath, or polypropylene on the underlayer works really well also. I'm kind of cheap, so cotton t-shirts are cheaper. Problem with cotton is it doesn't wick the moisture away from your body once you start sweating. But if you hunt with me, you're going to wind up seeing me going through clothes pretty fast. I'll strip clothes off and on. I try to be a little bit cool all the time. I don't like to sweat a lot. So if possible, I'll strip down to almost nothing. A lot of times early in the season, especially on cast and blast hunts, I'll wear swimming trunks underneath these pants instead of underwear. And then when we get down to the creek, if we happen to be along the creek and it's a nice day, I'll just jump in and go swimming and cool off. Later in the season for footwear, I like these kind of boots, or these kind of boots right here. These are cheaper. These are what I usually wind up wearing, but the biggest thing about it is the air bob traction. Whatever boot you get late in the season, make sure you have these little round air bob tractions. Those are the best snow grip that you can get. And they actually work really good early in the season also. The problem is early in the season is we wear them off really fast. Now if you're only hunting for a week, it's not that big of a deal. You can take them home. You got all kinds of time to get them resold. But when the guides are back there, you know, we'll go through this traction 3 or 4 times a year and it's not worthwhile. So we'll wear a Vibram early in the season and air bob late in the season once the snow hits. The other thing I like to have is a pair of slippers. These are real simple camp slippers. I think they cost 20 or 30, 40 bucks, something like that. They're lightweight, they're not much heavier than tennis shoes, but they're easier to get in and out of, and I find them more comfortable. I actually wrangle horses in the morning with these same slippers. So, you know, they work just fine. That's what I usually use for footwear. As far as pants go, I wear, like I say, the Carhartts or Wranglers early in the season. Later in the season, I like polar fleece or a light wool. I like to have the pockets on the sides like this, and I don't care for pockets in the back, because when you're riding in the saddle, stuff slides out and it's just uncomfortable. I like to have elastic around the legs so I can pull them up and cool off my lower legs if it gets kind of warm early in the season. I like to make sure I have belt loops, because I always wear a belt. I usually wear that little Gerber tool I was showing you on the side of my belt. And then I wear a polar fleece jacket. I always take a polar fleece jacket with me. If I'm not using it, I'll tie it behind my saddle, or I'll put it underneath these straps in my backpack here and carry it with me during the day if it's warm enough that I'm not wearing it. If it's really cold, I mean, like during lion hunts, I'll wear this coat right here, but this coat is pretty heavy, so I try not to wear it too much. The last thing that I'll wear is rain gear. You know, when guys come out west, they kind of like to see the guy dressed up like a cowboy. Cowboy hat, fancy vest, spurs, chaps, and a duster. Well, you're probably not going to see that if you come hunting with us. We're very conscientious about the weight. I was raised on a horse ranch from the time I was a kid. My parents were both raised on horse ranches and farms. You know, we know what it takes to raise horses and mules, but also, if I had to choose between being a cowboy and being a good hunting guide, I'll be the good hunting guide. So if you want to go look at cowboys, there's cheaper places you can go. If you want to hunt elk and deer, come with us. Anyway, this is what we wear. Colors really don't matter to me. I don't care if you get yellow or bright orange. These are my wife's. You probably won't find me wearing yellow while I'm out hunting. This is what I wear. These are the olive green, and they're really comfortable. Usually later in the season, I'll wear a different hat. I usually don't wear a cowboy hat except for in the summertime. So I'll put these on over the top, put these on, and then I'm completely waterproof. Chaps never make you completely waterproof, but this rain gear here does. So this is what I wear, and if I'm not using it, it stuffs really easily into my backpack, or it also straps underneath these straps on my pack, or I usually just tie it behind my saddle and leave it there, and it stays there until I need it. That's it for rain gear. Hats. I usually wear a cowboy hat just to keep the sun off my head in the summertime. I usually wear a wool cap when it gets really cold, and a lot of times in between I'll just wear a baseball cap. Sleeping bag. When you come with a sleeping bag, I'd like to see you show up with something like this, a stuffable stuff sack type sleeping bag, mummy bag. They make stuffable sleeping bags that excuse me, have square feet in the bottoms of them if you don't like to have your feet close together. But I would rather not see you show up with a great big oversized large duffel bag type sleeping bag. We do a lot of spiking out, and you know, you may be going to a different camp each night or every other night. It's just hard to tell. So be conscientious about your weight, how much weight you bring, and how big of a sleeping bag you bring. This does all you need it to do. This is as warm as it is. In fact, mummy style sleeping bags are warmer than anything else. One other thing I wanted to show you was stirrups. This is the widest stirrup they make. This is the kind of stirrups we have on all of our riding saddles. It works good for these boots, but if you get those great big boots with the thick felt liners, 1-inch liners, you're going to have a hard time in these stirrups. And I have hunters complain about the stirrups all the time. This is the widest stirrup that I can find, so don't bring those boots with the great big thick felt liners. Bring a boot like this, or a boot like this. This boot will fit in that stirrup, but there's not a lot of room for it. So if it's much wider than this, and this is a size 13 double E or triple E, something like double E, I think. Most hunters' feet aren't going to be much bigger than that, so you know, you're not going to have much problem. This will work. Just don't bring those great big thick felt pads. That size out there are a pain in the butt to walk in anyway. Hope to see you out here. Practice your shooting. That's the main thing, and practice breaking your boots in. Put oil on them. If you want to bring a little bit of oil with you, it sure wouldn't hurt if you're bringing leather boots. And I can't think of much else that I need to tell you, but good luck, and I hope to see you out there. Thank you.